terms of the 40% target by 2020, we have been calling strenuously for cuts of that magnitude. The economists say that the longer we leave it, the longer it costs. The scientists say the evidence is overwhelming. We know the renewable energy technology is here now. Our challenge is to actually do the work and make the changes now.
100% renewable energy grid by 2020. The climate science says we've got 10 years to do it. We need to start and act now.
I have said in my parliamentary speeches and elsewhere that I strongly support the need for a reduction target at the higher end of the spectrum. I will continue to argue for that in the Parliament and in the caucus.
Family First is a minor party and will leave the mechanics of international pollution reduction targets to specialists in the know. I am in favour of Australia contributing towards international efforts to reduce pollution.
Liberals have a target of 5% by 2020, but we're the only party with a policy to actually achieve that. The Liberals do believe, or will consider a market-based solution.
Well, the first thing I think is to clarify what we're talking about, global warming or global cooling. The evidence is not overwhelming at all about it, and there's a fair bit of hysteria.
As to the whole climate denial thing, I think Russia had 40 degrees over the weekend and also bushfires. I mean, hello, this is Russia. I think we can say that the global warming is having an impact. We definitely have to lead in the technology because we're in that position, and that must be transferred and subsidised to developing nations because we have primarily polluted.
I guess to save time, my views pretty closely align with those of Malcolm Turnbull. I believe in the science and the need to act strongly and effectively, and I would fight for that in Parliament. I think we need to stay ahead of the world just slightly so that we're selling IP and technologies rather than buying it, and in that way help out the developing nations.
Funding. We have called for the Australian Government to increase aid funding to 0.7 of GDP, which is Oxfam's call. And we acknowledge that funding to drive climate change adaptation in the developing world needs to be funded in addition to those aid amounts.
It is a sad reality that the poor of this world who have least contributed to global warming will bear the worst of the consequences of climate change. And having come through the global financial crisis so well, our capacity to be a compassionate society and to help the world's poorest has never been greater.
The first world nations have seen the benefits of the carbon pollution industries, and we've contributed by far the greatest amounts to the situation with climate change, and it's a responsibility that falls to us to assist other countries to transition so that they can have low carbon economies to develop now.
100% renewables by 2020 doesn't include nuclear or uranium mining.
Well, I've had a position consistently for a very long time of opposing nuclear energy and the expansion of uranium mines. Of course, that debate has been lost within the Labor Party.
The uranium mining in Western Australia inevitably leads to a question of uranium waste, a question to which there is no answer at the moment. We have seen that we have renewable technologies that are available now, a wide array of those technologies that can address the problems that face us.
The other thing is we've got to recognise is that they're approving radioactive waste dumps in the NT. The NT intervention was used as a bit of a ruse to enable the government to mine uranium and also then use it as a dump at the Mukati community.
We will continue to oppose uranium mining, waste, weapons and dumps in Western Australia.
We did try to put a system in place. We tried very hard. We went through an exhaustive process. We had a green paper and a white paper and community consultations and negotiations with parliamentarians. We put the CPRS, Carbon Pollution Reduction Scheme, through the Parliament twice, and twice it was rejected in the Senate. The Greens voted against it. I believe, while I agree with the Greens on many things, I think this was a failure to respect the mandate, and I think it really let down the country. We would have had a system in place by now and we would have had business certainty.
It wasn't a decision that was taken lightly to oppose the carbon pollution reduction scheme. The senators took advice from environmental scientists, they took advice from economists, took advice from the lawyers, and considering all of that advice, found that the CPRS was a proposal which had been watered down so much in negotiations with the Liberal Party that by the time it came to the Senate, it was a proposal which locked in failure. The targets were set so low and the compensation for polluting industries so high that there was no prospect for that proposal to actually reduce our carbon pollution.
Beyond Zero Emissions have already done a blueprint, costed, and basically it costs per year 37 billion, I think, and it's basically the same amount that it costs for the subsidies to fossil fuel industries, apparently. It has to be publicly owned so we can have accountability and to ensure that it is done and provided to the people now and in the future. It means tens of thousands of green jobs and people in the coal industries can be transitioned into those new jobs.